Thank you, Mel, and glad to see everybody there. I'll share the screen in a moment. And as Mel said, what we'll talk about tonight is exploring N1MM statistics and tools to improve your score the next time around. So let's say the contest is over. You've created a Cabrillo file and a score summary, but you'd like to see how you did in this contest so that you can do better next time. So what do? Well, we'll look at several of N1MM's tools to help you out. I'll talk specifically about N1MM, but many of the other contest logging programs have similar tools. So let me share my screen. This is what my screen would look like, what it did look like after the 2019 Really Roundup. And so we'll use it as an example. And just as a review, let's save the Cabrillo file. So we go to File, generate a Cabrillo file. We make sure the exchange is right, Idaho, which that's where I live. So yeah, that's good. We say okay. Then there's some things here to check for your categories, single, op, assisted. So you check all those, make sure they're good, and you say yes. And the default name is always your call and log. So that's a good one. So you also might want to note where it goes. So it's going to where N1MM logger is on one of your hard drives that can be changed, where in the file it can be changed, and it's going to go to export files. So we save it, and then this just says it's complete, and you can send it to super partial, but for now we'll just say no, we don't want to do that. And then the other one that I think is worth having is file export, and then over here to score summary to file, and comes up with a decent name, and it also goes to export files. So we save that, and it tells us that it did it. So that's a little review of how to do those two things. Now then, let's look at some of the things that can help for next time around. And almost everybody agrees that the major way to do better next time around is stay in the contest longer, or button the chair, it's called. So we can look at how we did in that particular contest. So that one is in view. And then what we're looking for is on times, but what the name of it is off times. So here it is for that particular contest. So it tells us the off times that are greater than or equal to 30 minutes. And if you go down here to the bottom where my cursor is, you can see that I was off for 6 hours and a minute, and I was on for 23 hours and 59 minutes. In the Really Roundup, 24 hours is the most that you can operate. So that's so I did all that I was safe in doing. At least I thought so. So we want to save that so we can see it in the future. So we go up here to File and save text to a text file. And the no name comes up with it. But I think a reasonable name is on, by, off, and then we need to put the TXT. And then we should also note that this one goes to support files, N1MM logger and support files. So we give it a meaningful name and we save it. And then you'll also need that information if you're going to report to 3830. You don't have to tell how many hours you operated, but there's a slot for that. So if you want to include that, that's a good place to find that out. Another one that's worth looking at, everything that I'm going to go over in here is in the manual, is in the online manual. And here's the link for the statistics. So if you want to look at that, copy it down and go read more about what all is in view, there's the link for that. So another one in view is runs. And here it is. And this one is all the QSOs when you were running and you made more than 10 QSOs without changing frequencies. And that's what I did in that particular one. Some 20s, some 20 meters, some 80 meters, 15. So it tells you the amount of time and then what the rate was. So that's kind of a fun one to have. So I like to save that one. So file, save to a text. And this one I just call runs.txt. And it also is going to go to support files. So we save it. Now then, let's look at how you did in each hour of the contest so that you can hopefully do better in the future in the hours. So again, it's view, and then this time it's statistics. So here we have, this, down here, this is a pick list that has rows, and there's several of those. But the one we'll look at for now is by hour. And then the columns are band. I think that's a nice one to look at, fairly easy to understand. So here we have the date, and then the next one is the hour, and then across the top, 80 meters, 40, 20, 15, and I didn't operate 10 because it wasn't open at that time. So it tells you how many QSOs you made on 20 meters, and all the other bands for each of the hours, and it has the accumulation as well. So that's a good one, I think, to have. You can also look at it as a graph if you like those. I'm not sure that tells me a whole lot, but some people like to look at graphs. So all of these also typically have graphs. So let's go back to the statistics one. And we want to save it. So it's file, and I like to see the title in the printout of it. So I always leave the title check. So we want to print to the file, and although it says print, that really is save. So we check to print the file, and this one goes in export files. And the title is certainly correct. It's the AR already, but let's give it a more meaningful name than that. Let's call it hour by band, and we do need to put the text on there. So we save it, although it said open, we save it. Well, another good one of hour to look at is the zones. Whoops. So hour by zone. And here again, the hour in the day, down in the column, and then across the top are the zones. 3, 4, and 5 are the United States. 14 is Europe. 25 is Japan, and 31 is Hawaii. And of course, most everybody knows what all those are. But there's all the zones by every hour of the contest. So we'll save it, print the file, and again here it had the same name as before. So let's give it again a meaningful name, and I like hour by zone because that's what it is, and do the text, and we save it. And some other good ones to have, I think. Let's look at how we did on the multipliers for every hour. So here's hour by multipliers, and it's either true or it's either false that it's not a multiplier or true that it is a multiplier. And in this particular one, because the really Roundup is contest, or rather is multipliers once per contest, not by band, you get most of your multipliers at the beginning. So the true ones are the ones that are multipliers. And it doesn't say in here, but if you look over here at the score, where this section is, that's multiplier 1, and then the XCC, or the entities, that's multiplier 2 when we get to that. So we'll also save that one, file, print the file, and this one we're going to call hour by mult1, put a text on the end of it. We go out and we do the same thing for mult2. And this one, I didn't get very many off of the continent. out of the United States, so there's not many entries, but for other contests, there would be. Print the file, we'll save it. Let's call it hour by mult2.txt. We save it. And in some contests, there are 3 multipliers. CQ Worldwide has 3 multipliers, but in the RITI Roundup, there are only 2 multipliers, so they're all false. So you could save that, but there's little point in saving something that doesn't give you any information. But in other contests, it would. And then one more I like to look at by hour is points. So here it is for the RITI Roundup. And in the RITI Roundup, all the contacts, all the QSOs are worth 1 point. So this one doesn't really tell us much more. But again, in CQ Worldwide, that would be a useful one because you get more points for off the continent, and you get 2 points for Canada, or 1 point for Canada and no points for the United States. So that's a good one to have. But here in the RITI Roundup, we won't save that one because it's not much point in it. Then another one I like to look at is how'd you do when you were running? Or not how did you do, but how many of the QSOs were running? So again, the same format, days and the hour, and then false means no, it wasn't a run, a QSO, it was an S&P QSO, and true, of course, means that it was one. And as a quick glance there, you can see that for the first 3 hours, I didn't, I just searched and pounced, and then I did some running. And then if you scroll down, you can look, and toward the end of the contest, I did more search and pouncing because I'd already worked many of the big dogs. I run 100 watts to a single antenna at 60 feet, tri-bander at 60 feet. So I'm not a big dog. So we can save that one. Again, file, print the file, and let's call this one hour by is run QSO.txt. And some other ones that I think were worthwhile. There's lots of that you can look at, but band. So let's look at band by multiplier 1. So we choose those. And again, same story. False means it's not a multiplier, and true means it is. So you can see that 20 was where I got most of the multipliers. Of course, that's where I got most of the QSOs also. That same information, of course, is over here in the score summary. So you can see that's 55 there and 55 there. So we'll save that one. So that's file, and well, let's call that band by mult1.txt. And we get mult2 as well. Not a whole lot of information there. Oh, it's good information, just not much variety. So we'll save that one. So band by mult2.txt. And then just, well, mult3 we could do it, but there weren't any mults there. So band by is run QSO. So where did I do most of the running? Same place I did most of the Qs, on 20 meters here. So we'll save that one also. So print the file, and that's band by is run QSO.txt. Okay. And then one more that I like to look at is what countries did I work? So here's country prefix, and let's make this over here band. So though not very many countries, but there's all the countries that I worked. And we'll save that one as well. So print the file, and let's call that country prefix. How about prefix fix by band.txt. And there are many more that you can do. Those are the ones that I enjoy looking at, that I like to look at the most. Suppose that you did a multi-op we got stuff, or N1MM has information that will help you out on that. Here's one that I saved from the 7QP this year, where JWA0WWW and I operated mobile, and we like to do 2 hours on, 2 hours off. So drive for 2 hours and operate for 2 hours, and then switch around. So here's the how we did on all the hours of the contest. Pretty even split on QSOs between us. So that's a nice one to have, I think. And then another one, you get in the same manner, is rover location. Whoops. Rover location by operator. So here's where we operate: Idaho, Ada County, then Idaho, Adams County, Blaine, Boise, etc. So who made the contacts in those various counties? I enjoy looking at that one too. And that was saved in the same manner as the other ones that we picked up here off of statistics. There's other ways to look at the same information, and many people look at these or have these on all the time anyway. But if you go to Windows and multipliers, countries, here it is on my second screen over here. So there it is, same information, but it's not broken out by band, it's just by the contest. And then you can also see zones, so window, multipliers, and zones. And it's also way over here. See if I can get it this time. So there it is. So there's the zones that I worked, but again, not broken out by bands. And we can take a screen capture of that. I think that's a handy way to get information off the screen. So I have the snipping tool down here in the tray, and it's on the other screen. I've got 2 screens here, but you can only see one of them. So I click new, and then highlight it, and now it's saved it isn't saved yet, but it's in the screen capture. And then the other one that's worthwhile is down here, the score summary, but we've already got that because we saved that at the beginning. So that's enough for looking at N1MM for a while. So we'll close that. We don't need this so much anymore. Now, we need to talk about how to get those files from where N1MM saved them to where we want them saved. If you just leave them in N1MM in the default directories, they'll be all piled up and jumbled up, and it'll be hard to sort them out. At least I think it is. So I'm going to show you one way to store those things. So we'll open a File Explorer. I have 2 hard drives, a C and a D, and the N1MM saves its information in 2 places. One is in programs, parentheses, x86, close. That's basically information that you don't load up N1MM initially, when you download it and install it. And then the other place that N1MM saves information is typically on C. On mine, it's on the D drive, but most folks, it's on C. N1MM Logger Plus. And here are all the files that you can change, or that get changed when you do operations. And remember that that some of the information when it's in support files, and some of it when in export files. So let's open the export files, and there's all the ones that I just saved. So we'll set that aside for a moment. And I want to drag and drop them, and there's lots of ways to do that, but this is the particular way that I do it. I have also on my D drive, I have a folder that's contests, and here's all the contests that I operate in. And N1M, or really Roundup, is down here in the R's. So RIDI Roundup. And this was 2019, but I've already done that. So I'm going to put them in this demo one, but you would normally put them in the one that's the year, and then just highlight them and drag them all over. So that cleared out our export files. Then we need to go out and take care of the support files. And here they're a little more difficult to find, but not all that bad. Anyway, I sort them on date modified, so that puts them at the top. So there's the runs, and there's the on and off times. Drag them and drop them over there, and then we get rid of that. Now everything for that particular contest is stored right there, so I can go back to it fairly easily. And okay, so how do we use that information to help us the next time around? I'm going to change my radio for a CW contest. I'm going to open N1MM again. And here it is for a CW contest. It was how a CW contest ended. And this particular one is this year's, whoops, no, it isn't. But that's all right. So it's a CW one. Now let's look at the info window. I don't have it up. So window, info. I guess I do have it up. It was on the other screen. Here it is. And right now, because this particular contest was over a long time ago, there's not a lot of interesting information on that. So here's one that's more recent, or the screen capture that I took earlier this week during K1 USN as a slow speed contest. So a lot of good information in this one. Here's the operator, that's me. This is quite a useful one. The last QSO, it was 12 seconds when I took that particular screenshot. And then lots of information here that we'll talk about directly. Here's a graph of a representation, a graph of how I was doing on QSOs. For the last 10 QSOs, my rate was 45 QSOs per hour. The last 100, but I didn't have 100 yet, so it's probably all of them, 52. And then for the last 60 minutes, and then the last one is 56 minutes, which happens to be the what the clock was 56 minutes after the hour. And then the goal that I had set was a goal of making 20. I set it easy so that I'd have an example. And here's all these bars, so they're nice and green. This white rectangle is the goal. So you can see how you're doing on that one. Then this one over here is just Qs per hour. And these vertical lines can be either 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes. I have it set for 60 minutes because I think it's easier to figure out the hours than it is every 20 minutes, but you can set it on whatever you want. The red line is the goal of 20. And I was doing okay. I exceeded that by quite a bit, this particular blue line here. And down here are is a message. This is a message area. And if you've set up the cluster, if you're operating assisted and you set up the cluster correctly, and if you set up N1MM correctly, it will show you where you got spotted. So I got spotted several times on 40 meters sending my CQs. So let's look at this one. So this one again doesn't have much information except it's useful. If you right click on it, you get a menu, and is back. Right click on it. call frame spot, if it's checked, that's the one up here at the top that's K0FX, and it tells what the frequency and when he was spotted and all that information, country info. That's not real useful for the United States, but it is other places, sunrise, sunset, WWV messages. That's nice to see. And show whether you want to see the goals or you want to, and show the QSO timers. So the QSO timer is this one, plus if there's a 5-minute rule or a 10-minute rule, that would be in that area right there. Then you can have this graph show either Qs, which is they call contacts, or points. And if you see over here, this live one, it changed to points. I prefer contacts, but you can look at points if you want to. Sometimes it would be useful to do that. These three down here, that's where you choose whether you want 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60. So you click on whichever one of those that you want. Then in order to set the goal that you want, not what was a default, edit and export goals. If you've never done this before, then the default is 50 QSOs every hour for the entire contest. So that's what this is. So hour, and it's the first digit is the day, and the second two digits are the hour in Greenwich or Zulu time. Most contests start at 0 Greenwich, most DX ones anyway. So it would be day 1 of 00. So that's the beginning of the contest, and the goal is 50. Okay. But we can make that whatever we want it to be. Let's make one for the RIDI Roundup. And let's say that that you have a limited amount of time to operate, but you still want to do, you still want to have some goals to shoot for. So we click on that box. It's day 1, the RIDI Roundup, which is coming up, which is why I'm talking about the RIDI Roundup. It starts at 1800, 18 hours Zulu. So it's 1 and 1/8. And let's say that we want to do 30 QSOs in the daylight. And we want to do, because we're just a little pistol and we don't have that good of 40 and 80 meter antennas, we want to just do 20 in the dark, and we'll go till 10 p.m. and then we'll start again at 7 a.m. and we'll quit at noon because we got other things to do that we have to do. So you can tab over, type in the 30, and then tab again. And you want to go until dark, which here it would be on day 2. And that would be at 5 o'clock our time, Pacific time, which is 01. And then we want to drop it to 20. And I've hit the tab key. So I hit the tab again. We want to go until 10 p.m., which is 1500. And then we don't want any. You don't have to put the 0 in there, but I like to see the 0. And the other thing I should have mentioned up at the beginning was that, if, for example, that 1 and 18 and a goal of 30, it will stay that until another entry in the table takes over. So from 1800 to 0100, the goal is 30. Okay, so down here at 10, we want to go till 10. We want to start again at 2. I mean, start again at, no, we want to go till 10. So that's 2 and 6, 0. And then we want to start again at 7 a.m. So that's 0:15, whoops, and a tab and a 30, and then another tab. And we want to go until noon, and then we make it 0. And we say, okay. And then we'll go and look at the, did it get that? Yes. So there's our goal now. So those those will be the goals that change here and here. And this is a real-time box, so it's not showing that now. That's fairly straightforward, but it is a little bit tedious, particularly if you're going to do a different goal for many hours of the contest. Another way to do it is, let's suppose you just want to do the same as you did last year. So right-click and then import goals from the log. So we click on the log, and the first thing it does, gives us option to choose whatever database we want. I store my databases by year. You can store them by contest. Some people do it that way. I do it by year. A lot of people, I think, do it that way. So how did I do last year? Well, let's suppose this is 2022. And so I picked 21, my call in 21. So I open that one. Then what comes up after I bring it over to this screen is, here's all the contests for that year, and they're in alphabetical order. And the one we want is CQ Worldwide CW. That's what I intended the thing to be, but let's say that's what we want the goal to be. So we click on that and we say, okay. And then we get this message that the goals were imported successfully. And we can verify that by right-clicking here and then going to Edit Export. And there they are for all the hours of that contest. That's a very nice way to do it. The only thing that I think is not quite so good is if you wanted, well, it's okay. Let's say at this first hour, instead of 56, you wanted it to be 60. So you just click on it and then you type in 60. And that's an easy way to change ones that appear. It doesn't zero out the hours. So let's say you wanted to operate a little bit longer than quitting at 0400. You wanted to go to 0500. To me, it's not as easy to insert things, but there is an easier way to do that. So you say, okay, and now then you got those particular goals. So you've set the goals for the next time around. You can also import from a text file, and the text file has the same form. Well, I should have done that. The text file has the same format as the as this is in a database as this one, but in an ASCII file, you can make whatever changes you want on that particular one. And I won't go through an example on that one, but it's fairly straightforward. Those particular files, again, they look just like the other one. We'll get this out of the way. So now we're ready for next time. So how do you use this info window? Well, this is an important one, the last QSO. And of course, this would be a small number. It will be, I think, green up to 3 minutes. And then at 3 minutes, it turns to yellow. And at either 4 or 5, it turns to red. So it gives you some visual indication of how you're doing, as well as it shows you exactly what the how far it was to your last QSO. So we watch that one. Then over here on the left side, you watch how these bars climb. Again, back here on this one, you want those bars to always be above this white triangle or white rectangle. This one we don't always get because that's for the clock, but certainly the last 10 and the last 100, you'd like those to always be above your goal. So you keep an eye on that one. And then you watch the graph over here to see how you're doing relative to the goal. And the goal will change. The current goal for this particular example was 20. And then I just turned it off. I made it 0 after that, but down here will be your next goal. So that keeps you activated and keeps you going. So as a brief review, let's look at what we talked about. So to look at your how you did on the on times, it's view and off times. And the bottom one tells you how long you were on. If you want to see your runs, that particular contest, there weren't any. That was in view and runs. And then the breakdown of how you did by hour or by band or however you want to split it out, that's in view statistics. And then I showed you a couple of ways to save the goals and how to use them. And then this info window, I usually keep it on the other screen, but it's nice to see and it helps keep you motivated. I'll turn it back to you, Mel. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to attempt to answer them.
Okay, if you have questions, now's a great time.
Well, I'll make a comment. This is Jay. Yeah, it's interesting. All those text files that you made, Randy. Yeah, I do the same thing. Pretty much the ones you showed, you know, and of course, everybody will do a few different ones for themselves. One thing I do, and I started it many years ago, is I end up copying all those text files into a single document. You do it by folder, which is good. Then you can see all the individual files. For how, you know, like you say, everybody kind of organizes their files a little differently. I just make a single document for that particular contest. And I keep them by CQ documents and ARRL documents and other documents. And then I can see them all in one document, in one file. But it does take a little extra time, but it does save the number of files. So just a different way to do it. Still get the same information though.
Lots of ways to do things.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So Randy, once you finish the contest and you've exported all those files, then do you just basically go back and review them before the next contest, or yes. do you make yourself some kind of notes about it, or?
Well, I didn't show it because it isn't specifically N1MM, but I make a spreadsheet that has the time, or rather the hours, and then how many QSOs I want to make in that hour, how many mults I want to make in that hour. And then if the scoring is relatively simple, like it's 1 point per QSO, then what I hope the score will be, then I have columns that actually what I actually did, and I write them down at the end of every hour, or at least attempt to remember to write them down at the end of every hour. So having that information, having the mults by hour helps with that. I didn't go into that because I didn't want to get into spreadsheets and all that stuff. But the information that I showed you how to save is how you would make one of those spreadsheets. It's how I make one of those spreadsheets.
And that's what I was getting at. I know in a contest that you and I did together that you had that sheet prepared and we had goals for every hour, and every hour we wrote where we were. And, yes. And yes. I thought that was very helpful.
Yep. If you look at the November QST, there's an article by AA3B, Bud Trench, how he sets his goals for contest operation. And he does them all by bands, or he has his goals or he has his Qs and multipliers by band, which doesn't really fit in well with N1MM, but the same idea is there. And again, you can't see, I don't know how you see multipliers every hour in that info window, but it's a simpler, I think, simpler operation than what Bud does, but he's a big dog.
And thank you, Randy, again for your presentation and helping us get better at contesting and how to stretch ourselves a little bit.